Start. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time and thank you for coming out this evening for our Sacre meeting this evening. I'm mindful we actually have quite a couple of new faces in the room this evening. So actually what we will do is we'll start with a round of introductions, if that's all right. And then Luciani will come to apologies in a second. And we also have an observer with us this evening as well. So I'll start. I'm Stephen. I'm the current chair of the Agreed Syllabus Conference and of the Sacre. I'm to Beth.
I'm Beth Rowe, I'm the current vice chair of Sacre, but I'm also an elected member on the authority. I'm Kieran Hinton. I'm with the Seat Group.
And Claire Walsh, I'm a humanist. Sorry, I'm Claire Walsh, Humanist UK rep.
Shira Solomon's Judaism rep.
I'm Julie Easton, primary school rep.
Philip Theobald, the primary head teachers rep.
And Jinkerson, Free Church rep.
Savannah Bell, and I'm coming to observe.
Linda Galpin, I'm C of E rep.
Nick Barnett from Sacre, I'm the Group C school group.
Nigel Harman, I'm a Free Church rep.
Sarah Whitethread, secondary school rep.
Ming, we'll come to you in a second if that's all right, because I'll let you introduce yourself in a bit more detail. But just Alex.
Alex Freeney, what's his name? Councillor.
Jordan Montgomery, councillor as well.
I'm Luciani Barker, I'm the clerk.
I'm Emily Wadulove, I'm the local authority link officer for the Sacre.
Ian Nicholson, senior RE advisor for RE Today and NATRE.
Thank you. And Ming, I'll pass over to you now.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Ming Zhang. I'm new to this group. I'm survey director for education for working on kind of coming here to say hello to everyone. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. And as Ian mentioned, he's an RE advisor today. Normally we work with Angela, but if you've read through the agenda pack, you'll know that Angela has she has a promotion. So we're very sad that Angela's not with us today, but very grateful for everything she's done over the last few years working with us. And as a committee, can we just put that in our minutes, please, Luciani, that we thank Angela for her efforts over the last few years working with us in Wokingham. Ming, is Emma joining us? Yes, yep. Luciani, sorry, just while we're waiting for Emma, have we had any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Samantha Lawless and, as you just mentioned, Angela.
Stephen, while we're waiting, can I introduce myself? I'm online.
Yes, please. Sorry, Shahid. Yeah, Shahid, go for it.
Sorry, I couldn't be there in person because of some circumstances out of control. My name is Shahid Yunus. I'm a councillor. I'm also a representative of the Islamic faith as well.
Thank you, Shahid. Emma, thank you for coming along. I very stupidly got everyone to introduce themselves before you were here. So I'm really sorry, I'm mindful of everyone's time. You've got all of our name tags, if that's all right, but I'll hand over to you. You do need to turn the microphone on when you're talking.
Good evening, colleagues. So my name is Emma Cockrell and I'm the Director of Children's Services in Wokingham. And good evening to you. it's very nice to be able to come and meet the meeting and the committee, and really helpful to be here to learn about the work of the committee.
Thank you. And Emma and Ming, I don't know if either of you want to say anything now, but as members will be aware from the agenda pack, we are looking at the constitution later on in the meeting. I don't know if you want to explain a little bit about the reason why Wokingham are asking us to do this.
Both Emma and I are relatively new to working on Emma as my boss for the same.
So the review of the constitution isn't restricted just to the Sacre committee. This is a review of the constitution that's happening across the board in respect of all committees and meetings that Wokingham Borough Council is running. So that work is happening at the moment, and will, I understand, conclude early in the new year.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ming or Emma before we move on to the next item? No? Okay, thank you. So the third item on the agenda is the agreed syllabus conference, where there'll be an opportunity to have a discussion in your groups, and then we will come together to, within your groups, you'll vote, and then we will make a recommendation to the local authority if we approve the locally the agreed syllabus that the advisors have been working on over sort of the previous months. Just a few things. So the four advisors have been working on the agreed syllabus over the last few months, and they have gained feedback from teachers, from religious communities. The feedback from teachers has been very positive about the syllabus. All other 5 syllabuses across the local authorities, across Berkshire, have agreed. So we're the last to make an agreement. In a second, I'm just going to go through a few things. Thank you. Shortly, I'll hand over to Emily, who can explain how voting will work and how discussions will work as well. Just a few things just to be mindful as well. We are voting on a syllabus for teachers, for students. It's a framework for teachers to plan their curriculum and so they're certain about how they're going to teach it. And that's what we're voting on today, a statutory framework for our young people and students. A couple of other things to be mindful: if we decide not to agree this locally agreed syllabus is Wokingham, we're going on our own, because all the other 5 syllabuses have agreed it and they'll be following it. And then for us, it's going to set us back, and we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and make some decisions about what we're going to be doing moving forward. I'm going to pass to Emily, and then we'll come to you, Cheryl. Emily?
Thanks, Stephen. So yeah, I just thought it might be helpful to go over how the voting will work. If you've had a chance to have a look at our draft new constitution, you'll see that it sets out how voting has to work on a Sacre or an ASC when it's a formal vote. And this is set out in the law. So it says that for each of the groups or committees, as they're called on an ASC, there's one vote. And what the law also said is that within each of those 4 groups, you can decide within your group how to decide how your vote will be used. What the obvious way of doing it is that you take a majority within your group, and that is how your group will vote. But if you want to do it another way, it's up to you to decide. If you want to appoint a chair in your group, that's up to you. You can decide how your group runs your discussion and decides on your vote. When we're voting on a syllabus, normally if we're voting on anything else, it's a majority of groups. So if 3 out of the 4 groups vote for something, it's passed. In the case of the syllabus, the law says that it has to be unanimous. So all the 4 groups have to vote for the syllabus in order for us to say we are approving the syllabus. If one of the groups has a tied vote, obviously they can go back and have more discussion within their group and agree they're going to vote one way or the other. But if they really can't resolve that tied vote, then that group is considered to have abstained. And obviously, if we have one group abstaining, it means we're not unanimous. So that would mean the syllabus doesn't get approved. So I think that's it on voting, unless anyone's got a question about that.
I'll move in a second. The thing I just want to remind everyone as well is that we are appointed by Wokingham Borough Council, and as such, we should be behaving, fulfilling the 7 principles of public life. And while passions can run high, I would remind everyone to uphold those Nolan principles. Shira.
Just first a correction. You said that 5 of the other 5 Sacres had approved the syllabus. That actually is not true. Reading Borough Council's ASC could not agree a syllabus. They claim that they passed it, but they did it without the support of Group A. So if we don't agree the syllabus tonight, it's actually not true that we'd be on our own. It might mean that it gets thrown back to the RE advisors to go back and perhaps produce a better syllabus that responds properly in the consultation, which in my opinion has not been adequate because this has been rushed. Secondly, you probably didn't know that. I can confirm this. You can check with Reading. They will tell you it was done by a majority of groups, in spite of the fact that my husband, who's on that Sacre, pointed out that there was an error, and they did it anyway. The other thing is, are you telling me that none of us are going to have an opportunity to express any concerns we have about the syllabus to members of other groups? Before people make a vote, wouldn't it be more reasonable to have the groups discuss, then perhaps appoint a spokesperson to express their thoughts about any concerns, so that other groups might not be aware of other issues that might have come up, because or there are major concerns that we should be allowed to express those instead of being silenced, which is what I feel has happened to me. Just to clarify, but I really do not like that. It feels to me to be, I feel bullied. Thank you.
In terms of discussions and voting.
In terms of the question that's been put forward, which is part of an agreed syllabus conference, the agreed syllabus conference question tonight that's been put forward, which follows the 1996 Education Act, is do the committee agree, the 4 committees agree to adopt the syllabus as is presented? That's my understanding from speaking to the local authority, that is the point that's been reached to, has with all the other Pan Berkshire Sacres and agreed syllabus conferences as well. So the discussion about whether the agreed syllabus is to be adopted or not is a committee only decision. It's not a full ASC decision. Each committee has 1 vote and 1 voice. So the discussion about whether to adopt it or not is within each of the 4 committees, rather than as an agreed syllabus conference as a whole, because the point that's been put forward in the agenda pack is that the agreed syllabus is ready as far as it is determined to be voted on to be adopted by schools within Wokingham. So at that point, the agreed syllabus conference role is to go into its 4 areas to discuss those, and those discussions are within that area because it's now been put forward as a finished document from the Borough Council to the agreed syllabus conference through the work of the advisors for you to decide in your committees whether you're happy to adopt it. If, as Emily has pointed out, and it's part of the 1996 Education Act, which is based on the 1944 Education Act, if one committee decides that they do not wish to adopt it, then, as Stephen said, there are a number of ways forward, which I can talk about once a vote has been taken. If 4 of the local authorities have already adopted it and Wokingham decided against it, any changes would mean then it will be a different syllabus to the other authorities and therefore would be a standalone syllabus. So the idea is that actually for an agreed syllabus to be shared across local authorities, and to give some background, I was chair of Trafford Sacre for 16 years. We had a 5-way syllabus with 5 Greater Manchester local authorities. We all had to approve exactly the same syllabus, word for word, for it to become a Greater Manchester syllabus. Prior to that, I was 8 years as senior education officer and head of the advisory of Lancashire County Council, but also our re-advisor. We did exactly the same with our unitary authorities. As Lancashire, we had 2 unitary authorities. Any word changing whatsoever means it is a separate syllabus. So that's why the syllabus has been put forward today, because it is a pan-Berkshire syllabus and therefore has been voted on. By my understanding then, and not taking account of what's been said, by at least 4 of the local authority agreed syllabus conferences, they've made a decision to adopt it, and therefore that's what's been put forward today, is the wording exactly has been presented to the other syllabus conferences.
Sure. Alex, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I think it would be quite helpful to highlight what the pros and cons are of having a pan-Berkshire syllabus as opposed to having a Wokingham standalone syllabus. Because I mean, in my head, I can kind of guess, but it would be quite helpful to have it kind of laid out as to what actually the benefits are of being part of the club as opposed to going it on our own.
We've always been a collaborative local authority, and we've always worked with our neighbours and partners across Berkshire, and that's always underpinned, for the time I've been chair for 9 years, that's underpinned sort of mine and Beth, I'm going to speak for you as vice chair, our belief that we work with our neighbours and partners as opposed to going alone. And really, economies of scale, working with sort of our partners as well, we were able to put into the hub, and as a result of that, we were able to develop things such as the Crossing the Bridges project. The Faith Speakers project was also, and then equally bringing everybody together. There's a wealth of expertise across Berkshire that we were able to tap in and draw upon. And equally, again, crudely for teachers, if some of our colleagues across our teachers here move from Wokingham school to another Berkshire school, it makes their life a lot easier in terms of that transition. I accept my opinion is very biased, and I'm very pro Berkshire Hub. And I don't have a bad word to say about the hub personally. Beth, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, I'd also like to add that as long as our teachers across Berkshire teach the same thing, our pupils move from school to school under teaching of the same syllabus, so it makes it easier for them in the long run. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, along with the vice chair's comment there, where you have a syllabus across the authorities in a primary school, that will be much from a locality as children move on to from year 6 into year 7, or they will may move over the border from one authority to another. Therefore, the continuity of RE as required, and the research review 2021 and Deep and Meaningful that came out on the 17th of April talk about the progression of knowledge, and Christian Council's work around knowledge as the basis of all progression in RE is that the knowledge is progressed from early years all the way through to post 16. And therefore, if a student or pupil, from a high school originally, as you can tell, if a pupil is in year 6, then moves to a different local authority because of where they live, maybe on the border, therefore they will have the continuity of knowledge, and they'll have the continuity of the ways of knowing and learning that are based within the syllabus. Therefore, you have progression for all the pupils, and by the end of whether a student goes through to year 11 and moves on to tertiary education or carries on into sixth form, they will then have a commonality of understanding and depth of study of religion that Deep and Meaningful really pointed out. Richard Quay, who wrote the report and did the research review, is very, is very close to Christian Council, and another hat on for me is I'm an inspector, so please don't shout at me for that comment. I have to apologise for both organisations. So we'll 2 of the 3 organisations, and one of the things is we look at progression so that year 7 teachers are building on year 6 knowledge, that there's not that cliff edge of lack of progression. So actually, one of the benefits of this is that where you have smaller authorities, they can work together and the children can move easily across the borders. And it's centred then on the children developing the knowledge and that substantive learning about the faiths and the non-religious worldviews, such as humanism, that are part of the syllabus across all local authorities. And as I say, personally, that was one of the reasons why we in Greater Manchester had 5 local authorities. My school back gate was in one authority, but the front gate was in another. So literally my pupils walked from Trafford, where I worked, into Manchester City Council. So we had children from 3 of the 5 boroughs, and therefore they came from different primary schools, but we could continue their learning. And that's one of the benefits of a wider syllabus, is for the teachers to support each other. And you do get that crossover, but really the heart of it is about the children and what they're gaining from the education. And in terms of standards in RE, it's about making sure that the progression of knowledge from year 1 of key stage early years all the way through to key stage 5 is absolutely central to this one.
Sure.
The difficulty is we're in a position we're in now because there wasn't sufficient consultation in the production of the syllabus, which was done in a rush. And particularly, I have a document here which I would have liked to have emailed out, but I've got hard copies here for anybody who wants it, documenting how the Judaism content in the syllabus was changed at the last minute in some quite major ways without any consultation with anyone in the Jewish community. And no, the Board of Deputies did not see the new changes or approve them. I want to just scotch that because it was being put about. It's not true. So we're in this situation that now it seems to me that given that, as far as I'm concerned, there are major issues which all of the Judaism reps in Berkshire are concerned about. Now, we did not have a chance to properly raise those issues at the other Sacre meetings in Berkshire, except for Reading, where the syllabus was not approved. Because it was all done very quickly in September during right around the Jewish holy days. Also, that the syllabus was basically put out and then you were meant to answer immediately. People were pressurized to say yes right away. There was no real consideration or feedback taken to edit the latest draft. It was just done. And really the correct thing to have done at that point would have been to say, we're not ready, give it another year. Instead, it was pushed through. And Bracknell, it was pushed through at a Sacre meeting held on a Jewish holy day, in spite of the fact that this was known. So the Jewish rep wasn't there to be able to say anything. Now, in my opinion, what the Sacre should be doing in the circumstance where there's been inadequate consultation and the syllabus is in a rush and it's got, just also some gobbledygook that I found. I mean, honestly, it's just not a ready document, is to say to the RE advisors, go back, do some more homework, proper consultation, speak to the other local authorities. We could still work together on a syllabus and have it ready next year instead of this rush job, which is full of mistakes. And I don't see why we should be bullied into accepting a document that's a rush job full of mistakes just because somebody decided it was convenient to push it through.
Emily?
Stephen, so obviously we haven't got in the room any of the advisors who wrote the syllabus, but I have spoken to Angela in response to the points you've made, Shira. And also I've been present for some of the work that's gone on. So just to set out for people that what happened since between our last Sacre meeting and now is that a group of Hinduism members from across different Berkshire Sacres and a group of Judaism members both wrote quite long documents giving lots of very helpful feedback to the advisors about the syllabus, the version that we shared in June. And the advisors have done a lot more work on the syllabus over the summer based on feedback from other people, as well as all the feedback in those two extensive documents. I also chaired a meeting in July between the advisors and some of those Hinduism and Judaism members at the request of the members, when we could have a verbal discussion about the content of those documents as well. So based on those two lengthy documents and the discussion at the meeting, the advisors went away and did some more work on the syllabus over the summer, actually a lot more work than they'd been planning to do at that point in the process. And because they were aware that there were some concerns from the Judaism members, the changes requested by the Hinduism members were reasonably straightforward and they could just accept all of them and make those changes. The Judaism requests, they were aware that there were some outstanding concerns, so they sought advice from the Board of Deputies and had a meeting with a couple of representatives from the Board of Deputies of British Jews to talk to them about their thoughts about the syllabus. And what the advisors have told me is that they accepted all the recommendations of the two colleagues from the Board of Deputies. So they didn't ask those colleagues to approve the syllabus, as you say, Shira, but the changes that they've made were in discussion with those Board of Deputies representatives. So in the advisors' view, they felt they'd done some very thorough work between June and September when this current version of the syllabus was shared. And that's why they felt it was appropriate to make the decision that this version we're discussing today would be the final version.
Nick, you also had your hand up and then Sharon.
Yeah, I'd just like to add what Emily just. I heard your view. I think that I respect that. As part of management oversight, I did check where we are. It is very much what Emily just described. A lot of work being put in by advisor, by chair, by group. I also understand a lot of discussion already taking place. We are now reached the stage ready to vote on this syllable. I can clearly hear your view. I can hear the very strong view, although I think you are all appointed by local authority. As Stephen said, it's very important we respect each other. I think no syllable, I've been to many local authority, no syllable will satisfy everyone, will include every view. I think advisor will try their best to include all valid point being made. It was too late. The advisor already reached the final version. I think we can vote on that, and then any point, I think we can think about whether we can have a separate paper to add any particular observation. That's my thinking. I'm not part of it, member, but I think from my point of view, they are shown evidence that due diligence has been done, or opinion, input, view being expressed to the advisor already being looked into. Of course, advisor will not be able to accept every view, but this is a collaboration. Yeah, I would like to say that really, I think now we reach this stage, need to sign off this syllable or not. That's my observation. Otherwise, to this group.
I just want to clarify from Emily said, so the Board of Deputies did not see the Judaism key questions and content that we have in the syllabus. We were assured that the key questions in the syllabus would be according to what we had suggested, that they were going to follow that advice in full. They did not. They did not, to the extent that in Key Stage 1, they went back to a focus on individuals when we told them in our first feedback that we did not want to focus on individuals. I know you want to have Christianity Jesus, Judaism Abraham, and Islam Muhammad, because you like, but we didn't want that. And then they went back to it by changing one of the key questions in Key Stage 1 to something completely new that no one had a chance to look at. Now, a simple email to me, since I've been leading the Judaism group, could have circulated around within a few days. If they bothered, we could have had a quick meeting and looked at stuff and given them some feedback. The fact is that they chose not to do that. They didn't even bounce those ideas off Anna Silva at the Board of Deputies. They just changed it. They edited out the word Israel, so you even don't have mention of the children of Israel. Such was the allergy to the word Israel that they took that out the syllabus. It's just, it's so disrespectful. They changed the key questions for Key Stage 2 for Judaism to be not in line with the key questions for all of the other religions in ways that we didn't ask for and were not necessary. So you could have had questions which were parallel across the different religions, but they actually made the questions for Judaism different from the other religions in ways that were unhelpful without consulting us. I mean, I do not understand what makes somebody feel that they are entitled to, as an outsider, tell Jews what it means to be Jewish and that we will just take it. It's so disrespectful. I'm horrified. I think that we need to re-examine the whole way we deal with our RE advisors. Who do they work for? Do they work for us, or are we there for them? Is the syllabus meant to express their point of view, or are they meant to be servants of the Sacre, there to help us to produce a coherent, it seems like the syllabus was designed to portray a point of view of the RE advisors based on their commitment to the worldviews framework, as opposed to, I can't understand why they would adopt questions for Judaism out of line with the other religions in ways without even a simple email that could have called me. You know, I would have bounced it off. I spoke to Ossie and Dale and Svi, and we would have got back to them. They didn't bother. And the fact that I'm so offended at the way that we've been treated.
Well, first of all, to say I'm obviously really sorry if you feel offended, Shira. That something I would add that Ming was alluding to, that just to build on what Ming said, is that I think in the document that you've shared recently, I think there's a lot of incredibly useful advice. Obviously, I'm not an RE expert, but talking to Ian, he suggested that there's a lot of very helpful information and advice that teachers would very much welcome. And all we're voting on today is the statutory framework for the syllabus, which I know at other Sacre meetings they've talked about thinking, because the syllabus has to be in place for 5 years, and obviously things change over 5 years. So we should see it as a working document that, sorry, Shira, can I finish? We should see it as a working document that additional guidance documents can add to it. So what I've already said to Shira via email is that if the Judaism members wanted to put some of the information in their document into an additional guidance document for teachers, potentially that could be brought to our Sacre. And if we agree that we would like to share it with Wokingham teachers, it can go onto our website together with the syllabus. We can mention it at our training events, at our network meetings, and in our emails to RE teachers, and promote it with our Wokingham teachers. In terms of Shira's question about what we're voting on the whole syllabus, but only some of it is statutory. If you look at the document, some of it is statutory and some of it is suggested content. So where it's suggested content, that gives a lot of, obviously where it is statutory, we can produce materials to support teachers to teach those statutory things, because that statutory bit of the syllabus doesn't tell teachers how to teach. It's a very thin framework, if you like, that additional guidance would support. And then subsequent bits of the document are suggested content, which isn't, teachers don't have to do that. It's guidance that they can choose to follow or choose to do something a bit different. And obviously training around the syllabus will make it clear to teachers which bits are statutory and which bits they are free to make choices about. Because one thing it says in the syllabus is that there's way too much in the syllabus. No school could ever teach everything that's in there. So every school is going to have to make choices about exactly how they use the syllabus, which bits they're going to include in their curriculum. Teachers have a lot of planning to do based on this syllabus, which is why I'm getting emails quite a lot at the moment from teachers saying, please, when is the new syllabus going to be ready? Because we're really eager to start our planning of our curriculum. Teachers are waiting to have the syllabus. So I think it would be really good if we could get it to our teachers as soon as we can, so that they can get on with their curriculum planning.
I think we need to go into groups. And
I need to ask. I need to ask.
Okay,
so the non-statutory content.
Stop interrupting. You'll have your opportunity. We were shortly going to groups to have a discussion. As Ming has said, we have been presented with a document in terms of, are we going to vote on it yes or no? Shira?
So the non-statutory content, that's from page 20 in the pack. You're saying that all of that could be changed? So that all of that could be edited? How would that work?
Not that it can be changed, is my understanding. The document as it is will stand. So once a syllabus is approved, it goes onto a local authority's website, and that is the syllabus for the next 5 years. But as it states very clearly in the document, this is suggested content. It is not what schools have to do. So if we then produce additional documents, that will help schools to make decisions about which bits they teach, how they teach the bits they choose to teach, because that's just suggested.
But how they're gonna know that the Judaism content in the syllabus is wrong and they should use other content instead? How are they going to know that? Will there be a hyperlink in the syllabus to the corrected content, to the corrected key questions where the key questions weren't fit for purpose?
Yes. Sorry, yeah, the suggested content which Emily is speaking about, which you say, if for example I'm on year 1, we have the core question in year 1. Suggested content there talks about Christianity. So we have the question, what are religions and worldviews and how do we find out about them? What do different religions and worldviews have in common is part of the syllabus. They are the questions that are to be taught. The section that says suggested content, and I'm on page 16 of the degree syllabus, is that schools will then choose what is of the syllabus. We chose the content from it that related to the needs of the children we have in front of us, and we use that as the suggested content. Faith groups are able then to provide, or groups, any group is able to provide guidance on the teaching of that and supporting materials to go alongside it as an element beyond the agreed syllabus. So the statutory element is the core question, which, as we say on page 16, we have a core question for year 1 and for year 2. And then, for example, if I scroll down, we have, for example, lower key stage 2, we have the year 3 question, core question, the year 4 core question. Those are elements that are part of the agreed syllabus.
Underneath the religions, those are also statutory, right? So when they changed in key stage 1, instead of asking what beliefs and values are most important to Jews and why, which was a question that we asked for, which was parallel to the Hinduism question, they put how and where did Judaism start, which was not the question we asked for. Yeah. So that's, and that's what's very annoying, is that they didn't ask us whether we minded the change. It's so arrogant. And so are we stuck with that?
If an agreed syllabus committee, its 4 committees, agrees to adopt the agreed syllabus, those are the core questions going forward, yes. Because those have been put forward to the ASC tonight to vote on. Yeah.
So how could there be a new syllabus review to quickly review the syllabus, to put in a new syllabus in a couple of years that's corrected? Would that be possible?
The agreed syllabus, the current agreed syllabus you have ends in August 2025. Therefore, if there is no agreed syllabus after August 2025 for schools in Wokingham, the local authority is in breach of its regulations under the 1996 Education Act, because there has to be a document for teaching RE that is locally agreed from 2025. And given what Emily said, one of the issues, and we have teacher colleagues in the room, and so I was one until 14 months ago, they would want time to plan that for a September start to get that in place. So the agreed syllabus conference is being asked to vote on the syllabus as is presented today, in order that from September 2025, which is the legal start of this syllabus, that would be the way forward. So the agreed syllabus committee would then vote on it if, as we say, it is perfectly acceptable then to have non-statutory guidance where you may wish to give, any group on the Sacre may wish to give further guidance on teaching and what they think schools should deliver. That is perfectly acceptable, but it becomes non-statutory guidance because that's beyond the remit of an agreed syllabus conference. The only role of an ASC under all the legislation, the latest legislation we have is actually 2010. It's non-statutory. It reaffirms 1996 as an agreed syllabus conference's sole role is to adopt an agreed syllabus. Anything beyond that is not part of the ASC. And as soon as an ASC adopts an agreed syllabus for the 5 years, then the agreed syllabus conference has ended. And then the agreed syllabus conference, if they vote to, and we have head of service here, if the agreed syllabus conference does vote to adopt it, then that will go forward to Cabinet, assuming in that sense for them to ratify a decision, and that will become the legal basis for RE in Wokingham, as it would do in all the other Pan Berkshire authorities where it has been voted on. If an agreed syllabus conference says no, there are a number of ways forward, which I can outline if that will be the case, or if you'd want me to. However, it is a legal requirement. Every local authority has an agreed syllabus from 2020, yours from 2025, because your 5-year period of the last syllabus has ended. That's it. But the core questions are there. The suggested content has been put in there that schools may wish to deliver that in relation to that question. It is only suggested they may wish to go beyond that. That is entirely the decision of the schools themselves. We are providing a framework with core questions to be delivered to children in Wokingham from the age of 4 all the way through to the age of 18, 19. That's what we're voting on tonight. If an organisation wanted to add anything else non-statutory and say, we believe that in order to deliver this, you may wish to think about adding in X, Y, and Z, that is perfectly acceptable, but it's not part of the agreed syllabus, because the agreed syllabus is only giving suggested content. It's not saying to schools you must do it. And as Emily has pointed out, for a school to deliver all that would not give the depth of learning about art, about religion, that would really ensure that children understood what religion is in the world today, because there will be too much content, as Emily's pointed out. To deliver that would give a superficial view of religion, whereas actually that's where the non-statutory guidance from a group with any group with on Sacre, any faith group or non-religious worldview group can put that forward and offer that out to schools to say, here's some additional guidance from the faith group that you wish may take account of in your planning. But as I say, the core question is there. That's statutory. The suggested content is this is how you might deliver the question, or you may wish to include something beyond that.
Shahid's had his hand up for a while online.
Thank you, Stephen. A couple of points. I was there last time when we agreed a syllabus. That was 5 years ago, and we had a lot of discussions then. I mean, first of all, Stephen, the point you made out, I'm actually pro Pan Berkshire. I think that is the right thing to do from my perspective. And because of economy of scale and the benefit, actually, it gives us broader benefits. And that's what we did last year. And that is my preference would be this time. That's point one. I think where we are in terms of the content, looking from different faiths, and I'm here in this committee representing Islamic faith, there are some concerns as well. So it's not that it's without any concerns. This was expressed last time in our meeting as well, but nevertheless, I've consulted some other our neighboring representatives as well on this issue. But I'm just seeing that where we are at the moment now, what Emily suggested is probably the right sort of sensible way forward. I thought that actually the teachers have a lot of discretion, and they can pick and choose and say, look, this is the best way or best content to represent. So I think in this way, the way I see it is, if we can work with teachers, make sure they're best trained, they have a better training, so they can go with the statutory, but also with some guidelines as well. If we feel that there are certain faiths need some things need to be changed, then perhaps we need to work with the schools, provide that guidance, so making sure that it is appropriate. I think that's probably is a right way forward. But actually, to halting the not approval of the syllabus right this moment, I don't think that will be in good of anyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Shahid. Meng.
I heard many members said it very clearly, both lead group and local authority. I'm sure we welcome any extra non-statutory guidance be put forward by any group. I'm sure school will welcome that. That will enrich our curriculum. This is just a framework. I think if we get too much brought down too much detail to do that. I heard argument on both sides. I really have to respect a lot of good work have been put in as well. I think a lot of input from you are valuable. Other group as well. I think with that flexibility, our member can put in extra non-statutory guidance. Like a school, I can see the school head teacher they welcome that. I think my view as chair, you agree we shouldn't continue to debate in the detail. We should put in the group to work on this.
Alex, and then Sarah.
Yeah, I've got two questions. One is, one may already have been answered. It was asked by Shira. Is there an opportunity to discuss this as a full group? Because I know my group is just 2 people, and I would actually quite value the views of some of the other groups. I'd quite like to hear their opinions before I do choose how I'm voting.
Take it personally.
Just to say it, when we had some discussion about how to structure this discussion and the voting, as Ian said, the protocol is that it's for individual committees, the groups, in other words, to decide. However, we were thinking through how that would work, and we thought if you all go off into your 4 groups and have a discussion, there may be some questions that arise that you've got in your mind. So what we thought, if there are questions, what we thought we could do is give the groups a few minutes to discuss, then all come back together, and probably the questions are going to be mainly for Ian, because he's the RE expert in the room. So Ian's very happy to answer any questions that have come up in your group discussions, and then we give you another few minutes to discuss and finalise your decision, if that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. And then my second question is, the kind of situation we're in reminds me an awful lot of where we were when we were negotiating our leave from the EU. So my question is, do we have a WTO rules scenario where if we don't get a deal, can we leave with WTO rules? Or do we have to have some kind of agreement sorted out? Is there a backstop? If we have nothing by August, do we end up on some, as I say, WTO syllabus, or are we stuffed?
But the guidance is that should the Agreed Syllabus Committee say no, if the local authority, if the Agreed Syllabus can then ask for the Secretary of State to make the decision on their behalf. So we would then, through the LA, present to Bridget Phillipson the discussions of the Agreed Syllabus Conference, and she would make the decision, and it's taken away from Woking at that point. That is actually written down in statute, that the final decision is the Secretary of State's. And then she would make that decision. That has never happened since the Education Act of 1944 when that was put in. However, it is the route forward. The other route forward is then to say we're not adopting it, we start again, at which point you have to then have a syllabus, as I say, by August, that's been through the Agreed Syllabus Committees again, has been through all the committee groups, has been then agreed by everybody, is then produced and given out to schools in sufficient time for them to be planning it. The other option then is to get a local Agreed Syllabus from another local authority, and they will, this is where they will negotiate with Wokingham for you as Wokingham to buy the rights to that syllabus. The issue is if you do that, you have no say over that syllabus whatsoever. You are buying it in its entirety. So the local authorities, and I work with 17 local authorities around the country doing this discussion work. So I should be in one place tonight, but I said they can move theirs because I'm came to you instead. They've asked for changes, and the local authority said no. You either buy it as it is or we don't lease it to you. So actually Wokingham would then lose control if they decide to go down that road, that no changes can be made to it. You just accept one, which is the case in the London boroughs that I work with. 4 of them have done that, and they've adopted one syllabus, but it is a syllabus that is given to them and said that's what your schools are teaching. And that Agreed Syllabus Conference, one of which I'm actually at next week, Literally is you either accept it or you don't. And they said, can we make a change? And the answer is no, you can't, because you are buying something from somebody else. So this is your option to have your own agreed syllabus for the people, for the children and young people of Wokingham, based around those ideas. So those are the backstops. So it's a decision of, and it's not in any way me saying you should adopt whatever, because I'm actually saying this is what the legal position is. It's either it goes to Bridget Phillipson and she will make the decision and you have no control over that. She will either just say yes or no, and then she may direct you to another syllabus. You start again, or you get another syllabus. They are the three options that are available if you do not approve and adopt an agreed syllabus this evening.
Okay, so that sounds about as bad as WTO rules. So thank you.
So, but that literally is stated within the 1996 Education Act. They are legally the steps forward that every local authority should have. And then if you adopt one, it is there for 5 years.
Sarah?
During that time.
I just wanted to, I suppose, talk as the person at the shop floor delivering it. Okay, there's a lot of all this talking going on, and I think the key thing that teachers start from is we look at what we have to do, what is the statutory obligations, and then we look to the non-statutory guidance. So if you can put something in for the non-statutory guidance stuff that you are happy with, or the Hindu community or whoever, that is the key way forward. If it's in the pack, we read it, we go from that. So that's what you need to do and work with us, because all we want to do is provide the best that we can on your behalf as much as anything.
So the question is whether there can be a hyperlink in the syllabus to the corrected content that we produce, so that it's available at a click, as opposed to them having to go searching for it in some appendix that they may not know about.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think, firstly, to clarify, I don't think the supplementary guidance can't be a correction to what's in the document. It can be supplementing, it can be additional to, it can be supporting, but it can't be changing things that are in the document. In terms of how teachers would access it, we've got a web page on the Wokingham Schools Hub where we have our syllabus and any supporting materials. So it's very clear that any supporting materials would be on that page together with the syllabus. As I've said, we would mention it at our network meetings, at our training, at the syllabus launch event, potentially.
Can there be a hyperlink from the statutory content to the material that we produce, so that they can find it on a click and don't have to go searching for it?
I'm not sure, Ian, do you know if there's any precedent for adding a hyperlink? I think the issue would be that, as has been said, the document we're voting on today, if we agree it's a pan-Berkshire document, and the other local authorities, the other Sacres ASCs, haven't agreed a document that has hyperlinks added to it. So I don't think we can add things to the actual document, but it can be right next to the document on the hub, on the website. And as I say, mentioned whenever we're doing any training on the syllabus with teachers.
Can the front page of the syllabus with the table of contents have a hyperlink to the Judaism content that's been produced, so that they find that right when they look at the syllabus at the top and don't have to go searching for it?
Any alteration to the wording of the syllabus would mean that it's not a pan-Berkshire syllabus, because there would be, even one word would mean it's not a pan-Berkshire syllabus. As Emily said, and I spoke about my own background, but I've been involved in providing non-statutory guidance. So I was the head of RE for 15 years, is the idea that, and I actually worked with the Muslim Council of Britain to provide Islamic guidance, because that's part of my background, is the Abrahamic faith and use of words and terminology and certain stories you may wish to look at. They were not part of the syllabus, but they were put alongside a syllabus on a web page to say, if you want further guidance on text that will support you in teaching this, which, and I was in Sarah's role as the head of RE for 12 years before being a deputy head teacher. The idea is that that was then looked at, because teachers want the guidance, say, where does the faith say to this to come from? But to change any wording or add anything to the syllabus would actually change the syllabus from it being a pan-Berkshire one. However, non-statutory guidance is from the faith community saying, if you are teaching, for example, this story, and I've seen on one page there, for example, reading, I would suggest it says there on the Islam part, when Shahid was talking about this one, it talks about the monotheistic nature of Islam. I would say in non-statutory guidance, use Surah 112. Use it because it says, Allah neither begets nor is begotten. The idea of monotheistic ideas, that is non-statutory guidance. If we include that within the syllabus, we change the syllabus, but non-statutory guidance would then be used, as Sarah said, by teachers to say, actually, we want to know which texts are the best ones to use. And that would be a really key way forward and would actually get it to the heart of what the religion is trying to say. So the core question would stay the same, the suggested content would be picked from, but the non-statutory guidance would help illuminate the suggested content. If we were to add more to the suggested content, it would then be a Wokingham only syllabus. And therefore it would change that in terms of the discussions we had earlier about cross-border working between the 6 local authorities within the Pan Berkshire area.
Claire?
So 2 points. It seems like there's 3 things. So there's the voting, which may or may not go through. And if it does, then we'd want to think about how do we best support implementation, as been mentioned, and then possibly a third thing, which is about giving feedback on the process to inform it next time round. And I think that would be useful, not necessarily tonight, and also having an RE advisor who participated in that we'd get their understanding of their perspective as well. My question was about agenda item 9, because it's the feedback from the Wokingham Teacher Network, which raised some points about not just what they did like about the curriculum, but also how it could be better. And I was wondering if we knew how they were responded to over the summer.
So I don't know the details of the feedback no, I'm just thinking this through. I do know that after the network meeting, Angela wrote up all the feedback that the teachers have had. I don't know if the teachers in the room remember this, but after the network meeting, I'm just remembering now, I'm thinking off the top of my head, we emailed out to teachers that document that outlined all the feedback that teachers at the meeting had given. And the advisors then took that away, and the work they did over the summer took into account. So I can't remember off the top of my head what the details of that feedback was, but it was noted and taken away for consideration by the advisors.
The Wokingham Hub, so it's one that we use regularly in terms of accessing, if we're talking about how we're accessing documents going forward, having the advisory and supported documents sitting next to it, I don't think is going to take away the impacts those documents are going to have. I think that as a teacher and as a head teacher and someone that uses that hub regularly, you have your, whatever the site is that you're on, you'll have the kind of statutory document sitting there. Then underneath it, you'll have all your other documents, your PDFs for whatever it is that we want to add on there. And I think having them there as a separate document that we have added as a Wokingham group is not going to take away from the importance of them, because I think naturally members of staff will look at the statutory documents, use that for their planning, using it for their framework, and then picking up the other faith groups, other groups, additional information in that one place. As you said, it'd be in one place for everyone to be able to access as and then. I think the hyperlink thing within a document is going to have actually probably hide it more than having a document sitting underneath the statutory document on the Wokingham Hub.
I'm mindful that time is marching on. I do think it's appropriate that we in a second break off into groups and you have those conversations in your groups and then we vote. I'm not going to solicit vote or how you have the vote. You've got to vote how your conscience is. All I could say is, for me, the end goal is those young people in the classroom. And I understand passions are very high. I understand for a lot of us, this is very important. We're very passionate about what we're looking at. But again, I just have to keep in mind to the young people and the children within 2 seconds here. So in a second, I think we've ensured that the room is spread out so we can go off into our different groups, A, B, C, and D. And then we will come back together. Shira?
One last thing. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this tonight, but this is just it's an utter mess, obviously. I need an undertaking if I'm going to have any prospect of going along with I'm really uncomfortable with, because I feel really, really let down, that this cannot ever happen again. We cannot be in a situation again where we get bounced into a decision where we're basically being told, do this, or you're, WTA rules. We're at the edge of a cliff. The syllabus production process needs to take longer, needs to allow real time for proper back and forth interaction. If this hadn't been in such a rush, there would have been time for this feedback of ours to be incorporated. It could have been incorporated. It wouldn't have been hard. The only reason we're in this position is because of lack of planning and the rush, and also because they tried to do some massive big changes with, without realizing just how long, thinking that everyone would just go along with everything and there'll be no disputes. So you have to take longer over these things. And we cannot be bounced into a decision. In 5 years, if this happens again, that we end up being bounced into a decision, and I'll say, here we are again. We cannot allow this to happen again. The process needs to be changed. There needs to be, whenever any the Judaism content, Hinduism content, Islam content, whatever it is being developed in the syllabus, at the meetings at which that's being done, there should be people from that community there. It's ridiculous that that wasn't the case. I can't understand how that wasn't obvious.
Thank you for sharing. I disagree. I don't believe I'm bowsing anyone into making any decision. That's how you feel. That's how you feel. Everyone's going to vote and within their groups on their own opinions and their own decisions. No one's being forced. Emily?
Just quickly to respond to Shira's point about, and Claire's as well, about discussing the process. And I've said to Shira already that I'm very happy to meet with her and any other members who would like to meet to review the process and talk about things we would like to ensure are taken into account next time we're reviewing our syllabus.
Sure. Like I said, Emily going to meet with you, sure. I'm quite happy to join. I can hear your passion, but all of them are appointed by local authority. Although you represent your group, appointed by us, so I would like to have a conversation with you. But I think now we should reach the time to vote the committee.
How long do people, should we say maybe?
We've scheduled it in 10 minutes.
10 minutes and then come back for questions if people have questions.
Whilst we go into groups, we will still be live streamed on YouTube, but their mics will be off. Shahid, I'm not quite sure how you're going to join in with your group just because you're physically not here.
I was going to suggest even that the group A can stay here and they can use the mics and I can still communicate.
But my concern is that that'll be sort of all over sort of YouTube, won't it, in terms of.
Can I speak out of here, or so that it's not like everybody?
You could laptop actually.
Can we? Oh yeah, can we have a laptop?
Yeah, so link it to a laptop.
Otherwise, it's going to be ridiculous.
I can't stop the live stream. Sorry. I don't think this is going to work because I can't stop the live streaming. Once I stop, it stopped. And if we're using the mic.
Is it? No, it's just when previously in other meetings when we've gone into restricted content into, I forget what we call it, group B, section B, content, you're able to stop the live stream, but not with this one at all. I understand. Sorry, it's restricted to all.
Okay, so it is 20 past roughly by my phone. I'll call everyone back about past. Key things just to sort of bear in mind when you're in your groups, please do nominate someone within your group to be foreperson, chairperson, and then I will come back to each group and I would just ask, does your group approve the syllabus? And it's a simple yes or no. There's no maybe or possibly, so it's just a simple yes or no. There's space. We get into our groups. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that was a very sort of quick 10, 15 minutes to ask a very important question. So I'm just going to come to each group. And it's a simple, it's a yes or a no. So who's Group A spokesperson? Nigel, so Group A, do you approve or not approve?
Yes, we approve.
Thank you. Group B, Linda?
Yes, we approve.
Thank you. Sarah, Group C?
Yes, we approve.
Thank you. Alex Jordan, Group D?
Yes,
We approve, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I would like to open the floor to any sort of questions or comments that you may have had within your group. So I know, Sarah, you had a really good question that I think everyone would be useful to hear.
As teachers, as we said, providing, you know, the stuff on the floor, we appreciate that it's taken time, considerable time to go through this. And of course, there are some issues that people would like to add to guidance to the non-statutory information that's in the pack for the teachers delivering this syllabus. So what we would like to ask about, would it be possible to phase in the introduction of this with a possible timescale maybe identified, so that the teachers can actually, because we essentially, if you're talking about delivering it from September 2025, you're talking 2 terms. Okay, and if you want quality, you've got to give us the time to develop resources, change, because some of it is quite considerable changes, especially the Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2. So if we could have a phased in idea so that we can show that we're working on it, but bringing it in quality resources, quality teaching. That's what we wanted to bring up.
Hand over to Ian.
Yeah, as you've adopted an Agree Syllabus from 2025 at the Agree Syllabus launch, that is, the syllabus is in place from 2025 as to be progressed through the schools to ensure that it is embedded. But the idea is the time is given during the launch of the syllabus to say, actually, yes, work on it now, that you may trial units throughout 1 year, and saying from 2026, it usually gives a year's period for schools to develop a scheme of work to trial that, because quality first teaching, as you say, will take time. It will therefore ensure that all learners, SEND, EAL learners are catered for in your planning as well. So you have a legal syllabus coming in from 2025, schools have got that, and then at the launch say, right, you have the year to ensure that it is fully in place in order that, you know, and schools will start teaching certain units from September because they will have written them during the summer, but they're trialling them, they're trialling the pedagogy of it, they're trialling the language, so that's perfectly acceptable. Yeah, to say that actually there is a lead in time, because as you say, in primary, the RE coordinator is often an ECT. They may also have, you know, EDI work. They may also have, you know, PE, music, whatever. They have more than one subject, and for them to get an understanding of it will take time to ensure that what you've adopted is fully delivered, and therefore you as the Sacre are therefore fully aware that the schools are developing RE as you see according to your agreement.
We also thought it would give any non-statutory guidance the chance to be developed and added and actually be exactly what you want it to be as well.
Any other questions or comments from other groups? Nigel?
So our group, there is an unhappiness about this, and we know this, and we do need to develop better guidance for the religion. So we will work on that, I'm sure. But there is a concern about process. What we'd like to see, I think, is to spend the next year maybe thinking about what the process for syllabus development is, setting a timetable that ends in 5 years' time, so that we're actually giving ourselves time to go through and make sure that we've got this right, to do all the normal stuff, which is to check with the schools how things are going with it being implemented, to see what works, see what doesn't work, but to allow us to actually get it right, to consult fully and to a sensible conclusion for all religions and all elements of it. And sorry, religions and worldviews.
Thank you. Any other? So we can just ensure the minutes say we have approved the locally agreed syllabus, but with some recommendations in terms of around time frame and the non-statutory guidance that we would like to see produced to support our children, young people and the teachers in the classroom. I appreciate the last year has been quite tough and bruising at times, and we have run really high, but it's been a privilege to have been the chair of the agreed syllabus. So thank you. And that concludes the agreed syllabus part of the meeting. I'm sure the advisors will be working with, in particular, Group A on producing those guidance, because that will be really important moving forward for our children and young people. Okay, back to Sacre. I'm going to hand over to you, Emily and Luciani, because item 4 is election of chair and vice chair.
So can I have nominations for chair for the next year, please? Anyone can nominate.
I should probably say that I understand, I think I'm right, that Stephen and Beth are both willing to stand again if people would like to nominate them to do that. And obviously there may be other people that would like to put themselves forward, but Alex.
I'd like to nominate Stephen, please.
Is everyone in agreement? Can I have a show of hands? Yeah, okay. One abstention or against.
I was going to ask if somebody else was willing to be chair. I was wondering whether Nigel was willing to be chair instead.
That's a no issue.
Any other nominations?
I'm more than happy, Nigel, if you want to take over chair. I will be very honest with everyone. I and Catherine, I've had a very quick conversation with you. I am considering my position on Sacre. I've been here for the better part of 12 years. I've been chair for 9 years. I am more than happy for somebody else to step in. And if I am chair, this will be my last year with Woking Sacre. I think it's time for somebody new after many years. I think it's important you have new people come in. So if you would like to, it's more than welcome. Thank you. So item 5 on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting. Just bear with me for a second, just getting my notes. There were some amendments that were sent around, so I'm just going to pass over to Luciani to explain a little bit about the local authorities process.
I have received comments from Shira, so I just want to acknowledge in front of everybody that I have received very comprehensive comments. The normal procedure for minutes is that the minutes are approved by the chair, they get published to the website, and then there's an opportunity for everybody to make corrections on factual corrections, and then sometimes we do matters arising as well. Because the changes you proposed are quite lengthy, I have printed them off, and I'm proposing that I distribute, Chair, to the group to have a look, and it's got track changes. And these changes, if you agree, then we can agree them as the proposed minutes. And if there are any other changes, we can make changes now. Is that how you want to take it?
Yeah, we can do. And also just to be mindful with this, it is one vote, one member. And just to say, I approve the minutes because they're not verbatim, they're not word for word, and there is a YouTube record of the meeting. So for me, they were a summary, but Shira is right if she wants to sort of submit some amendments. So we'll give.
You can circulate. Yeah. I don't think there's.
That's huge.
Chair.
Thanks.
Ultimately, I can overstay my introduction of myself.
So do you want to put your mic on?
Thank you very much for your help.
You need to put your mic on.
Microphone.
Okay, I just said that possibly I might as well overstay our introduction. We came here to introduce ourselves, just so introduce your view, and so I'll let you get on with your business. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Turn your mic off.
Thank you very much.
Don't know if I've quite got one copy each. Oh, I've got a copy.
Stephen, Shahid here.
Sorry, yeah.
Can I just say I've got another meeting to go to, but I wanted to make sure that I want to attend I wanted to be here for the syllabus agenda item. So I hope you can excuse me.
Yes, thank you for being here and for your input, and I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So if I just give everyone about 5 minutes to have a little read through and thank you. Luciani, I don't know, because we're just having a very short discussion around members who weren't here, are they able to vote on them?
I don't think that's written in legislation. I was just saying to the colleagues here, it varies because sometimes you have a whole new committee and nobody was present at the previous one. You still have to make a decision. But if the committee feels that only those that were present should vote, then that's an approach that we can take.
If I could just speak on this, I think you're right. I think people can vote if they want, but I think it sort of makes sense that if you were not at the previous meeting, that you don't vote. I mean, as Jordan said, Jordan will be abstaining on the minutes. I would say that is the recommended thing that you should do. But I think you're right. I don't think you can force people to abstain ever. But yeah, I would say if you were not at the previous minutes, you shouldn't be voting on them.
Jordan?
Just to add that is the typical process for most council meetings. At least everyone that I'm aware of.
I'm just very mindful of time. I hope everyone's had an opportunity to have a look at the amendments. It is one vote, one person. So Lucy, I don't know if you want me to ask everyone what you want. In terms of approve or disapprove? Yeah. Okay, so who approves the amendments with a show of hands? Abstentions?
I have 3 in favour, 3 against, 4 abstentions, so the chair will have a casting vote.
As the minutes are not supposed to be verbatim.
There's one thing that was actually misquoted.
And I think that's the correction, but in terms of all of everything that was sent
I
through.
did not say we should be discussing gender identity in RE.
Okay, and I think that exception, I'd say, yeah, fine, but in terms of the whole minutes that came through.
Shiraz, could you just put the microphone on, otherwise it won't get recorded.
I did not say we should be discussing gender identity in RE. I thought that the issue of marriage will come up. When the issue of marriage comes up, then gay marriage obviously is going to come up, and you have to be able to talk about the way different religions deal with it differently. And the other thing, which was crucial to include, was that we agreed that no major decisions were made in the future that weren't a regular agenda item, and that wasn't minuted.
Sharing it. Jordan?
I think mine's given up the ghost. Just to clarify, in terms of process, we're now approving the amended minutes as they are here. Are we still open to additional amendments to the minutes following this vote? Okay.
Yes, yeah, yes.
I'm disappointed that the other stuff, at least that goes into the other thing, this character.
Sorry, George, sorry.
Well, no, just to clarify again, if Shira's not happy with the current minutes, is she not able to propose additional amendments to the minutes now? And then, just as I know you've got the casting vote here, if you approve these and then Shira later requests clarification, can those be then voted on again, just to make sure that she's happy with the final minutes?
At what point would I stop?
No, apologies. It's just we previously brought up that we were going to have a series of process that we had a vote on the current amended minutes and whether or not we were going to approve those, and then we were going to be open to additional amendments, and to it that Shira is not happy with some of the reflected amended comments here.
To be specifically included is there in the amendments I sent in. So those 2 items could be please retained exactly as I sent in. Because those were the 2 most important changes, then we know exactly what the text is. There's no need to.
And that the current wording that you're happy with is in this document now. But it is
not worry about things.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Apologies. I'm confusing myself now.
So I think those 2 amendments will, as you put there, Luciani will reflect the minutes to what we've just agreed, the amendments that you've just discussed. And And then we're going to hand over to you for, because there are a few matters arising which may come up throughout the meeting, but this is another big thing, and I'm just conscious it's already 8 o'clock. And we're going to hand over to you for the revised constitution.
Apologies, I was going to propose another amendment to the minutes, and that if we'd possibly be able to add my apologies for absence. Well, thank you. Whether or not we need to vote on that, I'm not sure. I defer to Luciana.
Okay, so the constitution, yeah. So those of you that were here at the last meeting will remember that I mentioned that actually Stephen, Beth, Angela and myself had already started doing some work to review our constitution, and I'd sent it to our legal team for checking, and they'd got back to me with lots of really useful advice that I then had to go through. And in the meantime, as Emma and Ming were saying, WBC has initiated this programme where they're asking all committees to review their constitution. So it turns out that our work was very timely, because it is a while since we've reviewed our constitution. So as we sort of touched on in discussions at our last meeting, our Sacre has become a little bit relaxed in some ways in terms of our practice, in terms of what represents best practice, in terms of how Sacres operate, and in fact what the law says about how Sacres must operate. And we also need to bear in mind that as a Wokingham Borough Council committee, we're actually subject to Wokingham Borough Council's constitution. So we have to make sure that our constitution reflects the Wokingham Borough Council constitution. So bearing all that in mind, there were quite a lot of changes. In fact, our previous constitution was very short. And the main thing that our legal team got back to me to say was there are lots of things that are missing. And actually, NASACA has lots of guidance on what a Sacre constitution should include and should look like. And we had some of those things missing from our previous constitution as well. So this constitution is quite a bit longer, and it does include, a lot of it just reflects what was our common practice, but there are some things that do represent changes. So I'll go through the key points. I'll try and do that as briefly as I can, but I do want you to be aware of the key points. And there are some changes for us. And obviously, we will support members with any of those changes that people would like some help with. This is a draft document. I'm very open to suggestions. Obviously, quite a lot of this is set out in law, or as I said, is set out in the WBC constitution, so we can't change those things. But what I've tried to do is wherever what I'm saying is based on legislation, I've referred to that and said, as it says in legislation, or as it says in such and such a law. Where you see a clause and it doesn't mention legislation, that suggests, I think, that it's something that the Sacre can decide about. So I'm very open to suggestions on those things. So what I think we should do, because it is a formal document, once we've discussed it and agreed any changes people would like to suggest, then we could have a formal vote on it. And then the next step would be that it would go to a Wokingham Borough Council committee for formal adoption and approval. So that's the process. So I'll just take you through it as briefly as I can. So the first section explains what a Sacre is, and the key bit of legislation, as it mentions in clause 1.1, where it sets out what a Sacre is the 1996 Education Act, section 390 to 397. And obviously one of the main responsibilities, as it says in the second clause, is to agree a local syllabus. And the reason RE is not in the national curriculum is because the government who devised the last national curriculum felt that religious education should reflect the views within a locality. And for that reason, Sacres are supposed to reflect the population of the locality. So that's section 1. Section 2 is about membership, which just makes it clear in 2.1 that it's the local authority that has the responsibility to appoint members to the Sacre. And 2.2 says that it's the local authority's responsibility to make sure, as far as possible, that the membership of a Sacre does reflect the local population. So where we have a change in our population in terms of religious beliefs or non-religious worldviews, we should try to reflect that in the membership of our Sacre. And then you've got 2.3 sets out the groups that we have on our Sacre. The groups are set out in law, but it's up to us as the local authority to decide how many members we have in each group. But otherwise it's set out in law. It also says at the bottom of 2.3 that the local authority will provide a link officer, a clerk and an RE advisor. 2.4 just makes something clear, which we probably haven't been very clear about in recent years, which is that members of Sacre are actually representatives of their particular faith group or organisation, and they should be accountable to a nominating body. The next section is about recruitment, which again refers to the idea of a nominating body. So 3.2 talks about what we do when we've got a vacancy on Sacre. And generally, and this is what we've commonly been doing, that Luciani will approach an organisation explaining what a Sacre is and asking if they would like to nominate someone to join us. Sometimes there's an individual person that just approaches the Sacre and says, I would like to join. And in that case, what we would do was ask if they could ask an organisation to nominate them so that they have a nominating body. So it is very important that every Sacre member has a nominating body, which we generally have been doing. But one thing we haven't been so good at is keeping a record of that, because some of you have been on the Sacre for many, many years, and we don't have a record necessarily of who all your nominating bodies are. So what we would like to do going forward, as it says in 3.3, is to make sure we keep a record of that. So obviously when anyone new joins our Sacre, we will start that record. And what we would like to do, because we don't currently have a record, is to ask you to let us know who your nominating body is. And I was actually talking with Stephen and Beth about this the other day, and they were actually saying, not actually sure who my nominating body is. They've both been on Sacre for a long time. Stephen has changed the organisation he works for. So it's not necessarily, for many of you, it might not be that easy to just say, oh, such and such is my nominating body. So of course, we'll have a conversation with you if you're thinking, I'm not sure who my nominating body is. Steve.
And I think I was just going to say, and once we get that, everybody's signed up to another 4-year term on Sacre. But Shira.
Yeah, just a couple points. It mentions the perspective of the nominating group. This assumes that the nominating group has a perspective. I mean, if you think about the Board of Deputies, Board of Deputies does not have a perspective. The Board of Deputies is a group that represents a wide range of people in the Jewish community. We all think different things. We don't agree on a lot of things because we're a community. We're not like a pressure group with a platform. So just concerned about this sort of assumption. It almost sounds like it's assuming that we're representing worldviews when we're representing communities. I mean, I'm also thinking in terms of, I mean, obviously Shahid's not here, but sorry, I forgot your name. Kira. I mean, do Sikhs have a single body that represents all Sikhs in the UK? I know Hindus don't. You know, with a lot of the sort of smaller religions, I mean, the Jews, we are much more organized. But anyway, even though I'm nominated by the Board of Deputies, I would not consider myself to only represent Jews who belong to communities that are affiliated with the Board of Deputies. Because there's a Jewish community, the nominating body is sort of, there's a consensus within a community that you're going to allow that nominating body to sort of deal with this because someone has to. I'm quite concerned about you know, I would suspect that when it comes to some of the smaller faiths, there may be a consensus reached between different communities. There's an assumption of centralization here and of a creed in that community, which I just don't think is reflected by reality. We're not all like the Roman Catholic Church or the Anglican Church, but it's like a clear organization, you know.
I mean, I think you've actually demonstrated really clearly, Shira, that you're obviously aware of different perspectives within Judaism that you're able to share with us. So if you think the wording suggests that a nominating body has one single view, then we can certainly change that wording, because that wasn't what I was intending to convey. So yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point to raise. Yeah. So yeah, 3.4 just says what we'll do when we welcome a new member. And one thing is that we'll be asking new members to sign our code of conduct to confirm that they agree to act in accordance with it. The code of conduct, as you might have seen, is in section 18 of the Constitution. Just looking for key points. Yeah, so section 4 is about term of office. So this isn't a change in one way, in the sense that I think we've always said that members serve for 4 years, but in reality, we've never sort of kept track of the 4 years. So what I'm suggesting is that after 4 years, we would get in touch. If the member wants to continue, we would get in touch with their nominating body and say, please, could you re-nominate them, just to reassure us that you still want them to be your represented person on our Sacre. But that is something that's not set out in law. That's something we can decide as a Sacre. So yeah, in terms of the rest of this section, it's just explaining that members can resign. The local authority will withdraw a person from the Sacre if we feel that they no longer represent their nominating body, the religion, the organisation they were appointed to represent. 4.4 is about attendance, and actually this is exactly the same as it was in our previous constitution, I think, but we haven't been good at sticking to it. But I think it is so important that we have good attendance that it would be good for us to be a bit more rigorous in applying this. So what this says is, if someone fails to attend 3 consecutive Sacre meetings, they would cease to be a member of the Sacre, but the clerk would have had to give them notice of that before the 3rd meeting that they were going to miss. And we obviously have scope to decide that there are extenuating circumstances. So,
sure.
Yeah.
When I was looking through this before the meeting, I noticed 4.5, which is new. Can I just ask, is that a static text that was recommended to you by Sacre, or was that written specifically for Rockingham?
As far as I remember, that wording, because I know that I didn't write that. I think it was copied from a Sacre in. Do you recognise?
It is, yeah. Sacre has on its website items where members of Sacres have been removed from the Sacre by local authority, and does have wording that where, and that wording is there, that where the local authority feels that the contribution of a member of a Sacre falls against the code of conduct, either of the Sacre or the local authority, because as Emily said, the local authority appoints members to the Sacre cannot appoint its own members, it is simply a committee of the LA. That is the case, that, and there is precedent set where members of Sacres have been removed by local authority officers from meetings where they've gone against the code of conduct. So that's where that comes from. And I had discussions with the legal department and with Ming when we were looking at this one around the idea that there are cases, and there are cases set forward where Sacre members have gone against the code of conduct, and that's what it says, that they are to be removed from the Sacre by the local authority because they are not following the code of conduct. And that's in terms of as Stephen said in terms of the Nolan principles, but also in terms of how the Sacre maintains itself. So the exemplars are there that will give rise to illustrate 4.5 and the issues around those ones as well.
Sure.
So to just follow up on that, I want to make sure that it needs to be made absolutely clear that who decides what's vexatious, and that, for example, I mean, I'm thinking I've been a bit of an annoyance, I think, to some people in the Sacre over the past few months, in that I haven't just sort of said yes when I want to just have an easy life. So, you know, that being annoying or refusing to go along with stuff that other people want to be rammed through without discussion, that kind of thing is not vexatious. Just because, I mean, I'm just feeling very sort of nervous about it. I'm glad that it was standard text, you know, but I mean, I was accused of bullying when I was not a bully. You need to be clear, you know, who decides what's vexatious, and that there needs to be some sort of process to prevent a Darvo situation.
So I think that's exactly why we've got a code of conduct, Shira, and a complaints procedure, because that is, as you say, it's fair to Sacre members, and actually this is stated in the WBC constitution, that if you're going to hold members to account, then you can't, it's not fair to do that if you haven't set out to them what the expected conduct is. So that's what this constitution attempts to do in some ways in the code of conduct.
If I can add to that, Shira, we do have a standards committee that judges those cases, and it's made up of members. And if you've ever watched a meeting of this council, you can see what vexatious means in sometimes. You've still got training to do.
Yeah, so the section 5 is about co-opted members, which is not different to how we've previously practiced. That's set out in law. Meetings, which bits do I need to point out? Yeah, so 6.5 I wanted to draw attention to, because this is actually something where I wanted to make sure you know, Shira, that I've included your suggestion. So as members will know, we normally share dates of meetings many months in advance. Something Shira's asked us to add in is that when we're setting meeting dates, the clerk will aim to avoid the dates of religious festivals or holy days. So Luciani will check. But obviously, if we do share a date that isn't suitable because of any religious festival or any other reason, members have a lot of notice where they can let us know if the date isn't suitable.
So what does aim to avoid mean?
So I couldn't say we will not, because all what Luciani can do is check. I've sent her a web link to a site which lists religious festivals, but the site says this is not absolutely comprehensive, and I couldn't find any website that guaranteed it included every single religious festival. So we will do, what it means is we will do all that we can as to the best of our knowledge, but obviously, as I've said, dates are always shared at least 6 months in advance. So if any member wanted to say that date is not suitable because we've got scope to change it.
So how about we'll avoid dates of religious festivals that can, within reason, if you add a sort of reasonableness clause instead, because you see, if you say something as a aspiration, well, we tried to avoid, but you know, it was inconvenient, so we decided to have the meeting on Yom Kippur. You know, because I have to say, you know, because we've had this happen twice recently in Berkshire. If it can be made the wording a bit stronger, maybe with a reasonableness caveat, that might be better.
I agree with that. And I think equally this is for us to hold the LA to account as well. So if the LA do for whatever reason try, then we can come back and say, actually, you haven't aimed, you haven't spoken to Shira about the sort of the Sacre being on a religious holiday, if that makes sense. But I agree with you about possibly that potentially could be a little bit tighter.
Yep, I can certainly amend that. I'm just looking at, so some of this is about if we have a confidential part of the meeting, which obviously is rare, but as members know, we go into part 2 where we're not live streamed. I don't think I need to go through section 7, section 8, section 9. Section 10, voting, we've really talked about when I was explaining how we vote on the syllabus. It's the same whenever we've got a formal vote, except usually it doesn't have to be unanimous, as I said. And what I've also added in, 10.10 says that when we know that meetings are going to include a vote, whether it's going to be formal or informal, we'll make sure that the item is included on the agenda and we'll let members know that there is going to be a vote.
Have you heard anything about the voting on them?
Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah, so Luciani and I had a bit of discussion about whether you could vote like as happened today when Shahid joined the meeting virtually when we're mainly in person. And that isn't actually stated in law, but what seems to be common practice is that if you join a meeting online, it's the same as being present at the meeting, so you can vote. So that's what our constitution says.
Yeah, I wish it was.
Okay, but that phrase, it seems to be common. Okay, sorry, I should have qualified.
Mainly not allowed with, I can think of a couple of exceptions, licensing subcommittee hearings and schools forum
Okay.
only, but this Sacre can decide to allow it. But I think it's worth having it written down to avoid future confusion.
Yeah, so that's something we can change. It's not set out in law if people have views about that.
I was going to say I'd have a 100% voting record otherwise, if I could vote online.
Yeah, we all best for wishes.
That's the voting sort of if you're virtually present, but if for some reason you're unable to attend a meeting, but you would like to submit your vote, how does that work? Because you have to be present in some capacity.
Yeah, and the Wokingham Borough Council constitution says that only those present in the meeting can vote. So what we're saying, or I'm saying so far, we can change it, is that if you're present online or present in the room, you can vote. But if you're neither of those things, then you can't.
Sorry, I'm really sorry to ask this, but have you received any legal advice from the council about this? Nave said it, so
Right. We strictly interpret.
Yeah, this is really bizarre.
As in person, we don't consider virtual attendance as present.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we've consulted our legal colleagues specifically with that question, and they scratched their heads, looked online, looked at the law, and they came back to say there is no legislation that
for Sacre. I know exactly what.
But is it in terms of the constitution?
In terms of complying with Woking Borough Council's constitution, all I could recommend is referring it to Andrew Moulton or Graham on that one.
Have they?
Only because they strictly interpret for all other meetings. If you're not in the room, you're not present.
Yeah.
Virtual attendance isn't presence in terms of Woking Borough Council's constitution.
I just add, with the exception of licensing subcommittees and schools forum, so you can make exceptions.
But those are other statutory bodies. I know that Sacre is as well, but as far as I'm aware, for licensing subcommittee, they don't set out that they are strictly adhering to Woking Borough Council's constitution because they have their own authority in that sense.
I think the problem with law, I'm not a lawyer, is that you have different laws and they sort of sit parallel to each other.
As I said before, I'm very happy for this to go forward, but it's that in the wording where we're saying that we are adhering to Woking Borough Council's interpretation of what is considered present. And as far as I'm aware, Woking Borough Council does not consider virtual attendance as present.
Yeah, because if that is the case, can't I make the same argument in the Climate Emergency Committee?
So I think if if it's not clear, I need to clarify this, but what, so what Wokingham Borough Council Constitution says is only those present in the meeting may vote. So when I say in line with WBC, that's what I'm referring to. The next clause goes on to say that for the Sacre, if it's a hybrid meeting, you can be present online, but that's open to the Sacre to decide about.
We don't really do hybrid meetings though, do we? Because normally we do 2 online, but we decided to do this one in person because we felt it was important. And then we do the summer one is normally the in-person one. I think maybe, sorry, go on, Lisa.
I will just add one more thing. The change to online voting being permitted, it's likely to happen in the next year by central government. So
that's true.
It's going to happen. So, but Emily's absolutely right. This forum here can decide whether you want it in your constitution or not.
I can't speak for Jordan. I don't have a personal issue with it. I think my question is more, it says here that it's in line with Wokingham Borough Council, but it's literally not, because Wokingham Borough Council specifically says that that doesn't count as being present. So I think if provided that's sort of tidied up, I don't have an issue with people voting online.
You need to change the wording.
Yeah, the wording is not like legally as
said. Both of our parties are on the same side. We want this to be a thing, but just checking that in the meantime we are clear and compliant with Wokingham Borough Council's constitution.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Shahid would have loved to have voted.
Yeah.
So. Well, yeah.
Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make that clearer. Yeah.
I think we just do also need to be mindful that this has gone through legal. Emily, it has gone through a consultation. So just we need to be careful with words and terms that we're using in terms of like it being legal compliant.
No, that's what I was just going to ask. So what would people, assuming that I'm going to tighten up the wording to make it clear what's in line with Wokingham. So we're looking at clause 10.7 and 10.8. So 10.7 says you can only vote if you're present at the meeting.
In person.
In person. No, present in the meeting.
Oh, you
10.8 says if you join a hybrid meeting virtually, then you can vote.
So all you have to do is combine them into one. I'm an economist, not a lawyer, but I've got a background in contract theory. So you just combine the two into one and say members present either in person or online. Just clarify what you mean by present, so that there's no ambiguity in sort of
and maybe don't mention the Wokingham Constitution. Yeah.
Is everyone in favour? Yeah.
Sorry. I personally just think hybrid voting just gets a bit complicated if we have a meeting, we're here in person. But that's just me. I think it's just me.
So in the chat is not that difficult.
I agree, it's not difficult, but equally I think it's just nice to be here. We're a community, we're an interfaith forum. It's nice to have people in a meeting together. And I personally hate online meetings. I know that's what we've agreed to do 2 a year.
So me.
I'm a teacher. I like seeing people in front of me. I spent too long teaching online. I just prefer in person. I think it's more personal. You can read the room a bit. And equally, I think, as I said, if you're here, you're here. But that's just me. I think by the sounds of it, sounds like everyone's happy with hybrid. So I'm Jordan.
I'd say on that, I completely understand the sentiment towards it. And I think everyone should strive to be here in person. However, we need to accept that there is always going to be extenuating circumstances for some individuals who may not be able to attend in person. I know that we've got a member in our group on council who's immunocompromised and may not always be in the right frame of health to be able to attend in person safely for themselves, but they still may want to fully engage and have the opportunity to vote. And that's why nationally, both our parties are pushing for this to become possible, because it's more inclusive towards members. Of course, it shouldn't be seen as a cue to avoid in-person meetings, but that would be my counter to.
mean, I listened in on the Reading Sacre meeting, which was online, and I'm at this meeting tonight, and I can tell you that having the meeting in person, it's just people listen to each other better. The mess up that happened at that meeting probably wouldn't have happened if they'd been in the same room. And the things that have gone wrong in the Sacre, when that one meeting when I felt bullied, that wouldn't have happened if it'd been in person, because I wouldn't be able to make eye contact when I felt uncomfortable. So I think that we should change back to having our meetings in person, except in extenuating circumstances where, you know, there's been a flood in the building or something like that. We should meet in person as much as possible and only meet virtually when we have to.
I agree with you. I do think we should meet in person, but I don't know if are we.
I think our constitution actually, I don't think mentions when we'll meet in person and when we'll meet online. I've left that open. So actually that's not something we need to decide about in relation to what we certainly need to decide, but not in relation to the constitution. So and I have added, in case it makes a difference, 10.8 says in-person attendance will be encouraged, because obviously if we've got a formal vote like Shahid experienced today, you can't, it's difficult to join in the discussion properly if you're not here.
So Emily, just for clarity purposes then, just so we can formally vote on this amendment that we're discussing in terms of the hybrid, what are you proposing to everyone, and we can do a formal?
So I think, yeah, I'm proposing that I take out where it says in 10.7 in line with the Wokingham Borough Council constitution, take that out. I'll say only representative group members present in the meeting may vote, and then go into, I can combine it with 10.8. So if you join a hybrid meeting virtually, you may vote, but we would encourage you to attend in person. So, but I know that Stephen, you've said you prefer it not to say that. So
yeah, but then I would just vote no. So don't change things just for me. So if we do on Emily's proposal that hybrid voting is allowed, and that, well, as Emily discussed, are those in favour of Emily's proposal, just with a quick show of hands?
Up so we can see.
So this is for hybrid, people being able to vote hybridly.
To allow hybrid voting. Those against? 1, 2,
Three
3
against.
4.
And those, any abstentions?
Wait, can we do that counting again?
Those against the hybrid voting, just with a show of hands, would you say against? You said again, you asked. So those, sorry, Lucia, those against hybrid voting, just with a quick show of hands, 4. And any abstentions? So I think the majority of you have voted for hybrid voting. Is that right, Luciani? Yeah, yeah.
okay, so I'll just pick out a few other things. So I'm missing out a few sections because I don't think there's anything particular to point out. Section 13 is about the Constitution, and 13.3 says we'll review the Constitution every 4 years at least.
Not in the same year as the syllabus.
No.
Maybe every 5 years, that way that's it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, actually.
Mandates.
And I have said that, you know, we'll consult with Sacre to approve any changes before those changes are made. Costs just says that that we'll make sure we have a budget, so the local authority is funding the Sacre, and that will include having an RE advisor and a clerk and a local authority link officer.
Emily, can I ask perhaps a controversial question here? We're all volunteers and we give up our time freely, but we have to pay £1. And I know it's only £1, but £1 parking, I agree, it's not. We're volunteers. Is there any way, no, that the local authority could, because we shouldn't have to as volunteers. Yeah.
The issue we have with the car park, which sounds really stupid, but although it's the Wokingham Borough Council staff car park, it's actually not patrolled by Wokingham Borough Council. It's just like any other public car park. So we don't actually have control over who gets a fine, who has to pay. It's out of our hands. But I totally agree with you, Stephen. It's not right. And it used to be free after 6 for a while, I think. And I think it's quite a recent thing that you have to pay. So
it's a second, and I know it sounds petty, but again, with volunteers, is there no way that the local authority could give us all like, oh, go on, and then I'll
Do you like Sainsbury's? You know, it's part of it. It would be a jar of £1
Stephen. What we do,
sorry, Luciani, then Alex, sorry, we'll with you.
what we do with other volunteers, with agreement, perhaps with you know, higher powers putting in a good word, is that if you provide me with your number plates ahead of the meeting, we can ask our colleagues in car parks to waive the fee.
Well, I was going to try and defend the council and saying that it does, all of your pounds that go on parking does fund our children's services and adult social care. So at least you get the moral victory when you pay for your parking.
So I think the section on the agreed syllabus conference, I don't probably need to go through because we've just talked about how voting works. Yeah, I think we've covered all that today. Section 16, I probably don't need to go over it because this is completely, all of section 16 is set out in law. And it's what happens, a determination, as you probably know, is if a school contacts a Sacre because they want the requirement for their collective worship to be wholly or mainly Christian to be lifted. We've never had that request in Wokingham. I don't think we're likely to. So we just have to have that in there. Don't think I need to say anything about section 17. So section 18 is the code of conduct. And 18.1, so just to say, this is one of the things that NASACA recommends that Sacres have in their constitution, and much of this content comes from NASACA's example, or comes from the Wokingham Borough Council Code of Conduct, or is things I've read in the Sacre constitutions for other Sacres, and I thought that sounds good, that sounds sensible, let's have that in ours. So 18.1 refers to the Wokingham Borough Council Code of Conduct and makes it clear that we're all subject to that as members of a committee. I liked the next paragraph, which says an effective Sacre or ASC is a model of social cohesion. And then you've got a list of bullet points which sets out what Wokingham Sacre expects all its members to adhere to. So obviously the third bullet point talks about if we're disagreeing, which we inevitably will, we disagree respectively. It goes on to say that we can challenge, we can criticise, we can disagree, we can do that robustly, but remaining civil in our manner. And of course, not turning it into a personal attack. A couple of bullet points below that, it says we should assume at all times that other members of Sacre are honourable and concerned with the best interests of Sacre. So just making that assumption that everyone is doing their best. We should never, the next bullet point, we should never disrespect other people's views or try to convert them to a different belief. A couple of bullet points down, accord any and all religion and worldviews the same respect. Again, a couple of bullet points below that, withhold any views that are inconsistent with equality and human rights and accept the presence of views we find challenging, where not to do so would compromise the rights of others.
So, do you mean by any, but obviously not all worldviews does not need to include. All worldviews, you obviously don't mean to include a worldview such as Maoism. So what you mean is all the religions and worldviews sort of are sort of represented. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can add that in if that would improve the wording. Yeah, and the last couple of bullet points are just about showing respect in our communication with anyone who works with Sacre, and remember that we are members of a Woking Borough Council committee, so we must be mindful of that in the way we conduct ourselves. 18.2 just talks about threatening or bullying behaviour, and that if any member does feel that robust challenge has turned into something that they feel is threatening or bullying, that they can raise that concern. 18.3 just makes it clear that everything we've said previously about conduct applies to outside Sacre and ASC meetings as well, and in written communication or telephone communication, as well as face-to-face. So that would include social media, emails, and thinking about the language that we use in all those kinds of communications that could potentially reflect on the Sacre and on Woking Borough Council. 18.4 is probably not going to be relevant to many Sacre members, but in line with the Woking Borough Council Code of Conduct, members are asked to declare any interest they have. So what we're really talking about is any financial interests, and the Wokingham Constitution talks about that applies to yourself or your partner. So as I say, is unlikely to apply to many Sacre members, but that's another thing that we do have to include, and we would ask members to let us know so we can keep on record if there are any financial interests. Yes.
Can I ask if that applies to our teaching reps as well? Because they do have a financial interest. Yeah.
But that wouldn't directly relate to the matters we discuss on I mean, they're not going to affect a teacher's salary, any of the decisions I think that we make on the Sacre, Beth, unless you've got something specific that you're thinking of.
Well, no. If someone teaches RE 100% of the time, does that affect them? I don't know.
Julie?
My understanding would be that if I ran an RE magazine that produced materials to support the scheme of work we were just suggesting, and then I was talking about it on Sacre, I would need to let you know, because I might be pushing whatever it is that I sell. So you just need to have an awareness that is my teacher salary is my job. My job is teaching. I'm here because I'm a teacher in a school, and I need to be part of that discussion. So I don't think that's something I need to declare, but a business interest related to what we're discussing, yes.
And like if Wokingham was going to hire Judaism teachers as speakers at schools, then obviously I'd have to declare an interest, because that's my business, right? Anyway.
So 18.5 is about communication and just channels of communication that any members who would like to raise any matter relating to the Sacre or ASC can contact either myself, LA Link Officer, Chair, Vice Chair or Clerk, and that any communication, the sort of default, if it's outside a Sacre meeting, is to go via the Clerk. And 18.6 says that this code of conduct applies to new members as soon as they join the Sacre, and they'll be asked to sign the code of conduct, and continues to apply until they stop being a Sacre member. In terms of you who are already members, the protocol is that if Sacre approves this constitution, from that point on, everyone on the Sacre is subject to adhere to the code of conduct. So section 19 is about the procedure if anyone has a complaint. Section 20, very unlikely to occur, but it's about freedom of information requests. And basically what it's saying is if any of you receive a freedom of information request, you will let the local authority know rather than responding as an individual, if it relates to the Sacre, of course, and that's just the law. Then the appendix just sets out the role of the chair, the clerk, the RE advisor, and the local authority link officer. And Appendix 2 sets out our standing agenda items. So we've got items that we cover at all our meetings, and then we've got a few specific items that we cover at each of our different meetings. So those are the key points.
Do you want to, I'll be in 2 seconds, Shira. Do you want to take questions and discussion before we go into groups to vote on the constitution first? Okay. Yeah. Shira?
Old constitution had syllabus review in the standing agenda items, and was that taken out on purpose or by accident?
So I think it's covered where we've got in feedback from Berkshire Sacre Hub meetings. It certainly wasn't deliberate to leave out the syllabus review, but of course we're only doing that every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that would always be.
Yeah, it's just I noticed that was gone, so to check it wasn't an accident.
Yeah, in response to that, the Agree Syllabus conference meeting is a separate entity to Sacre. They are 2 legal, completely separate entities. So, for example, an Agree Syllabus conference can approve an Agree Syllabus, but the Sacre cannot say no because they are completely different. So a Sacre may talk about the implementation of Agree Syllabus, but the Agree Syllabus content is solely the responsibility of the Agree Syllabus conference. And in fact, to that end, you may have a member of committee A, B, C or D at an Agree Syllabus conference who is not a member of Sacre. It is usually the case that they are. However, it could be the case that actually the local authority determines that they would like, say, for example, another member of committee D to join who is not a member of the Sacre because they are legally completely different. So, for example, say if the Agree Syllabus conference then had said, and this is what I'd spoken to Gillian and Legal Services about, if the Agree Syllabus conference said, we're now going to go to the Sacre and the Agree Syllabus conference are completely different legal entities. That's why it has been removed, because the Sacre has oversight of the standards and monitoring of standards of RE in Wokingham schools. The Agree Syllabus conference sole role is to adopt an Agree Syllabus. That's why that change is there, because that makes the legal definition that is very, very clear in the 1996 Act, that when we met with Ming recently to make sure that was the case, that actually there is sometimes that confusion that one is a subset of the other. No, they are 2 legally separate committees for the local authority.
Sure. You would hope, though, that the Agreed Syllabus Conference isn't the only discussion of the syllabus where they're at the end with their backs to the edge of a cliff being told, say yes or we don't have a syllabus. So that there should be discussion of the syllabus as it develops over time, so we avoid a repeat of tonight.
Yeah, I mean, as we've been functioning, as we've been working as the Berkshire Hub to review the syllabus, assuming we were doing that next time, that would come under the feedback from the Berkshire Sacre Hub meetings. But I can add something in about when the syllabus is being reviewed. That would also be a standard item.
There was another thing in terms of the role of the RE advisor. I'd like to add to the requirements for RE advisor that they should be some requirement for impartiality, and that they should be not be pursuing their own agenda. Because this is an issue that, you know, RE advisors are there to serve Sacre. The Sacre is not there to serve them. To make that clear.
I think, Shira, that I would clarify and say that the local authority's job is to appoint an RE advisor, and we go through a rigorous interview process when we do that. Once we've appointed an RE advisor, what we're saying is you are our expert and we will listen to your expertise. And their job is to advise us. So that's not relevant to put in the constitution, because we would only appoint an RE advisor who we respect. So, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Alex?
I might ask this question after the vote, but I've just had a peek at the agenda. is there any chance any of the items on the agenda can be moved to the next meeting?
I'm aware of the agenda.
Yeah,
I've had a quick conversation with a couple of sort of people about maybe bumping, unfortunately, their items again to the next meeting. I'm very mindful.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, we're used to staying till 11, but I appreciate other people are not.
We won't be here till 11. I think as a committee, I think we appreciate it's very late. Teachers have got to be in school tomorrow morning. Many of us have day jobs as well. I think some of these items, I think frustratingly, we probably will have to wait to the spring meeting. How long do you want to give? 5 minutes into groups to have a quick discussion and make decisions about voting. Sorry, Sharon.
Say yes.
So if we break off into group A, B, C, and D, sorry, Linda, you're on your own again. Up to 5 minutes, but if you finish sooner, if we come back. Thank you, everyone. That was very quick. Just coming around to, so Nigel, I don't know if you're still the foreperson for Group A, but did Group A approve the Constitution?
Yes.
Thank you. Group B, Linda?
Yes.
Group C, Sarah?
Yes.
Group D, Alex and Jordan?
Never. No, yes. Very much.
The new Constitution is approved. My understanding is now Emily will go to the executive for their final sort of rubber stamping of the new Constitution. And then moving forward, I assume either Emily or Luciani will send out a link so we can all share our nominating bodies moving forward as well. Sorry, Julie.
I think my nominating body was the school I was working for when I started here. I've now moved schools. So does that now become the school I'm at?
So you're in the same position as me. So I was at the union and then my school, and now I work for Bracknell Forest Council. So yeah, you ask your school or the primary, is it Federation? The primary head?
Yeah, so the Primary Heads Association could
nominate you as well.
I know that I am the representation of the primary heads and therefore I report back to them, but I'm not quite sure how it works on a primary teacher level, but I can ask the question.
Yeah, if you reach out separately to sort of Emily, Luciani or myself, we'll help anyone who is in a bit of a position where they're not sure where the nominating body is. I am mindful there is a lot on the agenda which we're not going to go through for the rest. We're just going to do 2 more items. So I'm just going to hand over to Emily. Or you did just mention, I mean, mine's just gone blank. What you were going to?
I was just going to mention the draft annual report. Normally at this meeting, we would share the draft annual report of the previous academic year. It's not ready for sharing yet. So once it is ready, we'll circulate it via email. It has to be submitted by the end of December. So we'll get it to you before then. You can feedback.
An online vote.
Yeah, the issue with that is that the DFE currently have put an embargo on data. So therefore, no Sacres have been able to approve and agree an annual report this year because there have been certain schools have challenged the data. The data should have been out with local authorities as unverified, which has to report in the annual report prior to Year 6 parents choosing Year 7 schools. However, it was not available because schools have challenged the validity of the data. Therefore, there's no GCSE data centrally for 2024 yet, and that is a key element of the annual report. So actually at the moment, not one Sacre in the country has been able to approve an annual report. So the deadline, and I've got a meeting on Friday about this, we're looking at moving the deadline further back because we legally cannot provide a report that does not contain 2024 unverified data. So all the Sacres across all 150 odd local authorities are in exactly the same position at the moment, that we're waiting for unverified data. 2023 data is fine. There is no 2024 data, which has to be part of the report, even though it is unverified.
Item 11 and 12 is Claire and Julie, and I'm really sorry because we did this in the summer meeting as well. Are you okay if we will do it in the spring? I think these last two meetings there's been lots to discuss and share with everyone, so that's all right. I'm really sorry. Item 13, national updates. Ian, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to share, and it's all in the agenda pack. If people do have any questions around them, please do get in contact with Emily. Should come via you. Any questions around national updates?
Yeah.
Okay. Item 14, any other business? Just looking around the room. No, so the final thing is 15 dates of the next meeting. It's the 3rd of March 2025, which will be a Monday. Given our conversations earlier, do we want to have that in person or online?
Weather's getting nice in March, isn't it?
Summer meetings in person.
Yeah.
And I suggest you also check the dates also that they're okay with religious festivals. I'm just saying, you know, it's
obviously let us know that.
Okay, from an LA, like you'll be able to get the groups in. Okay, so we'll say in person but hybrid for those that can't attend on the 3rd of March. Well, we'll be able to sort of get back to the real Sacre business.
That new constitution.
Okay.
Thank
you everyone for your time this evening and everyone's comments. It's valued as always. Go home, enjoy the rest of your evening.